What's up, guys? This is the newest DC Defender Show, Ep.2, a special episode. We're releasing this on Sunday afternoon because guess what? Tomorrow's Super Draft Day. He's back for an Ep.2. He made it through the cut. We got record numbers. Alex, you know what to do.
Just excited to be here, man. Let's go. Let's jump right into it.
Man, I cut my man off. He didn't even get to say hit the music. My I don't know, my mouse went and the music just goes. So we'll go roll with it. Ep.2. The Super Draft preview. Right? This is a big day. Right now they have 53 guys on the roster. You can bring 75 to camp. So you've got 22 spots. We don't know how long this draft is. We don't know if there's a minimum. We don't know if there's a maximum. We do know that there will be picks announced online throughout the day, which is kind of crazy instead of the roster drop like in the first dispersal. So a little bit in excitement that we can follow along during the day. It's a holiday for most people.
Yeah.
So it could bring some eyeballs to the league. So what do you think about the Super Draft?
I'm ready. To your point, going back through this as we get ready for the show and we're looking at our roster, a lot of holes still left to fill, a lot of spots still open. So that's all very positive. And you touched on it. Tomorrow's a day off. It'll be nice to be checking the phone and see who the defenders have picked up as these picks are released.
Exactly. So the Super Draft stipulations are anyone that played in 2023 in either league, and they had a contract. So guys like that went to the Jordan Ta'amu is not in this draft. Mark Gilbert from the Maulers, not in this draft. Guys like that went there did not sign back. This is just for guys that played in the league and came back to the league during this merger talk. So, and you can pick anyone from any team. It doesn't have to be the contracted teams. It doesn't have to be. It could be. You can pick your DC Defender guy, right?
Yeah.
They didn't say they didn't protect someone they wanted back. They can pick them up technically. So, position and strength. We'll start there. I picked out 3 of these. I think these levels of the defense are so solid, man. And you see, it's all defense, which is great for me personally. Edge rusher, safety, and linebacker. Out of those 3, which one do you think we're set the most?
I combined edge rusher and linebacker because I like where we are. I went back and looked. You got Davin Bellamy coming back, Andre Mintz coming back, Francis Bernard, Reggie Northrup, and Malik Fisher. So you've got all 5 of those guys that were, major contributors last year and coming back, or on the roster rather. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then if you go and look at what was added last week, you picked up Trent Harris, you picked up Jordan Evans, and you picked up Tim Ward. So, I feel really good. I think you nailed it. I feel really good about this group, how they fit in Williams' scheme. So, when I'm going back in and sort of, looking at the roster and, looking at the guys who had, actual playing time with DC last year, what we supplemented with and added in the draft, feel very good about edge rushers and linebackers. The safety position, I think you touched on it, or we touched on the last show. We got significantly better with, the pickups that we got from the Vipers. Cornerback is still a little shaky, but I'll let you speak to the safeties if you want to take it.
And Anderson and Sparks are awesome. Just watch them. They're aggressive. They're hard hitting. Like I said last week, Anderson didn't miss a tackle after week 5, which is unbelievable. And, Vegas defense was on the field quite a bit with the offense sputtering a little bit. Sparks is another solid player, but to go back to you, the edge rushers, linebackers, putting them together, you got Bernard too. It seems like they're so deep at these 2 positions that, like, what are you going to do with all those guys? You know what I mean? Like, how are you going to fit playing time for the Harris, Bellamy, Ward, Mintz, Bernard, Northrup, Evans? Like, it just goes on and on and on and on. So it'd be interesting to see. I guess it could help out Greg because he likes to do a lot of different looks, and if guys succeed at different things. But I'm excited where the defense is. I'm a little scared about the offense going into this draft, but the defense, I'm excited. Yeah. So we'll go to our first position that of need, quarterbacks in the draft. We decided to highlight 3 guys here. Out of these three, and I think I know where you're going to go with this one. Which one would you take first?
Well, in full transparency, I have a lot more experience with Troy Williams, right? We covered the Maulers. We know Troy personally. We know what he can do. We saw his season evolve last year from when they gave him, the keys to the Ferrari. And man, I just call the Maulers offense a Ferrari. That might be a first. But third game of the year when he took over, and we saw the progression as the year went on. So the pick for me would be Troy, obviously from a familiarity standpoint. But if we dig a little deeper, I like the three quarterbacks that you picked here because all of them will fit well in Keis's system. DC last year was not afraid at all to utilize the quarterback run game, right? Not scramble or run for your life, but the design quarterback runs where you get the extra blocker in there, and it creates a lot of problems for the defense, right? When they have to prepare for it and whatnot. It's definitely a weapon, and I think you'll see it again this year. So I think any of these guys fit within the offense pretty well. I didn't get an opportunity. I did see Hundley play, and last night I know we had a little bit of a back and forth about McClendon. I didn't see McClendon much. I remember him from Baylor. But I didn't get to see a whole lot of film on him from last year. But I'd probably go if I had to rank them. No offense to my man McClendon there, and if you join the team, I owe you one. But I'd go Troy. He'd be my pick, and then Hundley and McClendon. That's kind of the order that I would take these three.
Yeah, I think both of the Vegas quarterbacks struggled last year. They had the ups and downs, and it could have been coaching because you see a lot of talent on there because like Jeff Badette, and there's a lot. It could be coaching on the offensive side.
But they had an offense coordinator change too. To your point, you're exactly right. Yeah. They were a mess offensively. So to your point,
and then they trade away Luis Perez and all that. Like it just seems like it's like the Maulers in season 2022, right?
Yeah.
Like it just the quarterback's always changing. It just didn't seem like they were organized. Troy is a winner. That's one of the biggest things. Troy's my guy. I'm going to be transparent here, but I don't know if he goes back to the NFL. I think he's at this level, and I think he can win at this level. I think the Maulers. Me personally, last year the play calling held him back more. When they let the play calling go, like the first game against the Stallions, he was able to run. And Troy says his player comp is Willie Beeman from Any Given Sunday. He just Jamie Foxx's character. And he kind of played like that in that game, and where they kind of peeled back. I mean, they just kind of let him go. You know what I mean? Right. They weren't so conservative. It wasn't 3 yards in cloud of dust. And then Troy kind of bail us out on third down. So I would match you saying I would go Troy, Hundley, McClendon. The thing McClendon might be the fastest out of these three, and could fill that Derek King role a little bit better than the rest of them. If you bring back Tiamu, McClendon is probably the top option because he can fill that Derek King. If you don't bring back Tiamu, Troy's probably the best option. So
that's a great point you made too, because like I'm looking at these guys. If I had to bring in somebody and say that's my number one. Yeah. So to your point, if Tiamu comes back, he's got the inside track. So, who is that Derek King guy? So that's a great catch on your point. That's why they call you the general manager. If I'm the professor, you're the GM.
The XFL version of Zach Potter.
You are Zach.
Offensive weapons. I think we both agree that we need some offensive firepower. Jeff Badette, Reggie Corbin, Jermaine Martin. What are your takes here?
We're lean in both of these positions, I think, as far as receivers and running backs. If you look at the receivers, lost Lucky Jackson, lost Blair from last year, bringing back Josh Hammond. So if you look at the top three receivers, one's coming back, two are gone. If you look at our top four rushers, only one's coming back, Abram Smith. The other rushers, that we know of right now, Tiamu, King, and Raquel Armstead were the other three leading rushers. They're all gone. For now. So holes to fill. That said, Reggie Corbin, obviously a lot of experience with him from the USFL, high yards per carry. In his first year with the Panthers, he averaged almost 5.5 yards a carry. Last year, he was up around 4.3 yards per rush. Those are dynamite numbers. So, Reggie Corbin, explosive, reminds me of Raquel Armstead a bit too. So does Jameen as well.
Yeah.
Like if you look at him, same build. Now, his yards per carry, it looked like he was just under 4 last year for the Guardians. Who knows if maybe he's with a little bit better offense, what he's able to generate there as well. But, we're going to have to fill the running back position. Either one of these would be, super fills there. But that was interesting too. I went in and, took a look at him this morning a bit. And, I know that there are a lot of people competing. I saw him on sort of the wish list for some of these other teams as well. And I like him, and I think he could definitely help because right now we brought back Hammond, we got Jazz Ferguson, and we got Harmon coming back, Kelvin Harmon right now, and they're sort of the main guys. So the only thing with Badette, he's a little different profile from a stature standpoint. He reminds me more of some of the Mauler receivers than Blair and Jackson, who are some of those longer guys that are more like out on the perimeter. All three of these guys would be good pickups. If you put a gun to my head and said you got to pick them, I'd go Corbin, Badette, and then Jameen.
The thing about Reggie Corbin, 437 yards last year, all USFL in 2022, 25 receptions out of the backfield in 10 games.
Yep.
That's 2.5 catches a game. Corbin is returns kicks. He would be a great second option or share with Abram. Jermaine Martin is kind of a third down back, kind of a scat, kind of can do a little bit of everything. 258 yards for a team that was terrible on offense. Yeah. But after 2 weeks, he actually led the league in yards per carry. Mm-hmm. So they caught on and they were able to stop him, but the team didn't advance. The team didn't get any better. They were the worst team probably in all of spring football, not just this league. So
he was averaging 7 yards a carry at Coastal. I went back and looked in college, and I mean, before he transferred out, he was like up around 7 yards per carry at Coastal Carolina with significant rushes. It wasn't like he had 2 carries for 14 yards either. So I mean, he does have that explosive ability. Game-changing type of talent.
I actually think he was in front of Maribel, or he was right after Maribel. I think they crossed over for a year. But Jeff Badette had 34 catches with 3 quarterbacks, right? Like he started the season with Luis Perez, then he went to the 2 guys we just highlighted. 5 touchdowns, 23 first downs out of his catches. So he's getting 2/3 of his catches are first downs or more. So he did take 56 targets, which seems like there's a lot, but I think that was more on the quarterback than his hands. So I would be happy with any of these. Number 1 is Badette for me. Number 2 is Reggie, and 3 is Martin. But I would be absolutely happy with any of these.
Yep, I agree.
Moving on to the next one, your specialty. Alex is a former Division 42 offensive lineman at the University of Phoenix online.
Yeah, I tell you what, nobody, even though I will tell you this, I think I may have said this before, but when I went home a few years ago, and I'm all right now, but I'd put on a little bit of weight, and I saw one of my coaches, and he said I'd eat my way into a 3-point stance. So no offense to you big guys out there with your hand in the ground, but taking a look at offensive line, I took a look at last year. You bring back Liam Fornadell, he had 10 starts. Michael Maetti, 5. Kyle Murphy had 8 starts. And then we picked up DeMarcus Hayes, who had 7 starts. So we have some guys with XFL experience up front and some starts there. You go and look at what they added with the launch and Big George, added some quality guys there on the offensive line. And these are all intriguing guys. Like, I'll let you talk to Leon because we know him from last year. But, Jared Thomas had 10 starts last year for Seattle. So here's a guy that, is an experienced guy. And we had 6 starts for Okeke. And he's an interesting prospect too. Like if I went in and read the draft profile on Okeke, and he's one where I think from a raw talent standpoint, the NFL is still high on this guy. But, from a fundamental standpoint, the footwork, the wide hands, the punch, all sorts of things that, it requires to be a good professional offensive lineman, still a work in progress a little bit. But, when I look at these guys, it's kind of hard to rank because, honestly, I haven't seen a lot of film on Thomas or Okeke. We know Leon. We know what we're getting there. He was a difference maker when he came in for the Maulers. But, when I look at the number of starts, we have a good core. when I look at what we picked up in the first dispersal draft with the launch and more, I like how we got better there. So I'm gonna punt on this one and say that I think any of these guys could help us, and we probably need more than one.
I agree. So Jared Thomas was a center for the New Orleans Breakers in 2022, all USFL. He went over to Seattle, performed well there, had a bunch of starts there. Jared Thomas would be a great pickup for this team because I believe he played guard in college and then moved over to center in the professional ranks. So the fact that he's got some flexibility for the interior line, it helps out. Cheedy, you're 100%. It's all potential there. Super athletic. He's got a great interview with our Brahmas guy on the United Football Media.
I saw that. Yeah.
And he has a bestseller book. He just sold his book. He's got a great story. High potential here. Great size. He's coaching kids too at the same time. Just a good dude. And I think you nailed it when you said that, like, he's got the high potential and super athletic. So that'd be a good addition. And then Leon Johnson is willing to do anything. He loves hitting and he loves blocking, and he's straightforward and he keeps it real. And I think he'd be a good fit for this team. He's willing to compete. He's from Philly, so he's kind of an East Coast guy. But he's got a great attitude and always working hard. So whatever he's doing, it's not just he does a little bit of everything. So
he can freestyle rap, right?
Yeah, he did that on Hammer Time.
Yeah, I remember that.
Any of these guys would be a great pickup. I think Leon is high potential because, he got cut from Philly during the year, and the Maulers picked him up instantly and inserted him into the lineup, and he was the starting right tackle for the Maulers in the championship.
Yep.
Like, obviously, he was talented enough to just jump in there, and they went to the championship. Yep. Okiki played for the Maulers, ironically, last year. But he's had some injury problems, but high potential. Jared Thomas has been all spring. Like, he's just an all spring talent. All three. I'm surprised Thomas really made it through the first dispersal draft because I think he's one of the better XFL center guys. But to your point, these teams might have established offensive lines, so they might not be focusing on that at that first part. Like Hutchins and Barlow wanted to get edge rushers. They wanted to get better there. So they knew the XFL talent on guys that are excellent edge rushers. And then they said, we'll figure out the depth pieces with the offensive line later. That could be a thinking, but he did grab 2 tackles. So I don't know.
Offensive line is so critical. We've talked about it numerous times in spring football, how hard it is for these teams to gel. So I like the fact that all of these guys have significant XFL or USFL starts. So number one, they've played in spring ball. You're not getting somebody who may or may not translate. We know these guys at some point have started. When you look at the core of what we're bringing back, there are a lot of starts that we're bringing back there. I think the big thing is this, though. If you think about it, so much of Fred Keiss's offense, run, pass, option. It's kind of like it all starts with the run. Once you establish the run game, then you're able to work all of your run pass options off of that. If there's no run game that they have to worry about, hell, you can just sit back and eat them up. But when you are able to establish the run and start running the football, the defense has to adjust. And then you're putting these guys in uncomfortable situations, and you can just, make your reads and run the RPOs. But, I like what potentially they could add here. I like what they added in the dispersal draft as well. So I think I'm feeling pretty decent about offensive line wise. Maybe another one or two.
So I wanted to highlight 5 position groups, just so, I don't know, it's content, right? And the offensive line we can always use an offensive lineman.
Oh God, yeah.
Like if you got 8 rounds, which is the rumor, right, with this dispersal draft. I mean, this super draft, that it's at least 8 rounds. No one knows how long it is. One can be an offensive lineman.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, just add the depth. You're bringing 75 guys to camp. Yeah. So you definitely can add an offensive lineman. This is just one of the directions I would go.
And we got 22 spots, so we're not limited either. Yeah. So
moving to the defense. Defensive tackles. Galen Robinson from the Battlehawks. Samapara Pama from Seattle. And then Boogie Roberts from, where's he from? Oh, the Pittsburgh Maulers.
Yeah, I've heard of that guy.
Yeah. Your take on this? I'll let you go first. I love D tackle ever since Aaron Donald took over that Super Bowl a couple years ago. And Richard Seymour growing up. I love watching D tackle play. So
Sama's interesting. I don't know. I remember him last year from the Player 54 show that the XFL put out. I don't know if you saw that episode with him, but he was a big time high school player out of Hawaii, and he had Alabama and LSU and everybody looking at this guy. I mean, unbelievable talent and sort of that big body, athletic. Went out to UW, University of Washington, and didn't really pan out there. I think he played in one game or two games, and then he retired, which was kind of like, I guess kind of unique. And I guess he went back to the islands to help his family and whatnot. And then he was actually signed in coming out of one of those XFL cattle calls where they bring everybody in. So an interesting guy there. Physically can do it all. But, in terms of football, if you think about it, still baby in the infancy and what he can become. So I'm interested in him. I would say that, taking him would be more risky than taking a more, proven player like a Boogie, which, if you take a look at a guy like Roberts, I mean, it's not only what he does on the field, how disruptive he is in the middle, but what he brings to the locker room and who he is and a character guy. And you start to put those kind of guys on your team, and they can make a tremendous impact. Robinson's one too that, if you go back and look from his time at Purdue, very disruptive player. He's been around for a while, a lot of talent. It just for whatever reason hasn't really, he hasn't found that place to really excel and stand out yet. So, I would take a safe bet here. If it were me picking them, I'd probably take Boogie. I'd probably look at Sama, maybe a 2 and a 2A with Robinson if I had to pick. But I'm going with the mayor.
Yeah, I agree. I think Boogie was near all USFL last year with 3 sacks, 28 tackles for the best defense in the USFL, maybe all of spring league. Sama, I added him because he is a unique prospect. Yeah. I think if you're filling out your roster and it's player 75, let's use the Rock's little tone, the last guy on the roster, right? Palma might be one of those guys, high potential. I think Cheaty might be another one we just covered in the offensive tackle. Guys that, I'm using my last spot to take a risk on some guy, and maybe he shows me something that he hasn't been able to show yet. Gellin Robinson, his dad is the big dog. I don't know if you know the big dog is.
Oh, yeah.
Glenn Robinson, a former number 1 pick in the NBA.
Absolutely.
Super athletic kid, played for the Battle Hawks or Battle Chickens. That's what we're calling him on the show. 13 tackles. He only started 2 games, but we know that St. Louis was pretty deep on the defensive line. So, but he got some playing time. I think any of these guys, I would go Boogie 1, Robinson 2, and then Palma if I'm number 75.
Yeah, no,
if it's player number 75. Moving on, corner, Shakur Brown, Zafir Kelly, and Brian Allen. I'm gonna go first here. I'm gonna go really first. Brian Allen is slept on, and I have no idea why the Stallions did not keep him. He started 2 years for them. They won the championship. He wasn't the weak part, unless he's not coming back, and maybe that could be a reason that no one knows. I don't understand why Brian Allen is not protected by Zach Potter and the Stallions. Shakur Brown is super talented. Played for the Maulers. He 9 games started for the champion Renegades. Super high talented. If you go look at his time in Tennessee Titans camp, all they did was praise him, and he probably became a victim in the numbers game. The defense coordinator was publicly talking highly of Shakur Brown. Zafir Kelly is a guy, it's kind of a personal touch here. They played Savannah State. I saw him, and he was the fastest guy in the field, and he was that guy. And I just feel Sacramento State's up the street. I've been kind of following his career, 7 games out there in Seattle. Could really be a high-end prospect. We'll see. But if I had to pick guys here, I'm going Allen, Brown, Kelly.
Good picks. Way back, we've got Michael Joseph, we got DeJuan Neal that are, guys that are back. And this is the area that if you look at, there are a lot of DBs on that roster.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we could use some help at corner. And like I think Allen could definitely fit a Utah guy, very athletic, to your point, a proven pro in spring football. When I looked at Brown as well, 9 starts with Arlington, I think a Michigan State player. So, he comes from a big time program. So, I mean, I think if we could sign both of those guys, I'd be happy. And then, sort of to your point, I don't know a lot about Kelly. In full disclosure, I saw the Sea Dragons play twice last year when they played us. But, I think there's good football at all levels. Right. And, a lot of these guys that are FCS and then, they translate nicely into these leagues. Now, one name that I did not see on here that I'm really shocked that I didn't see on here, especially coming from you, was Philando Jordan. I fully expected that Philando would have his own slide. So, just wondering what happened there.
Philando would be fantastic. The reason why is I didn't want too many Maulers. I didn't want our new listeners to be like, oh, these guys just talk about the Maulers the whole time. So I had to make some cuts. And that's why Boogie and Troy were there. And I'm like, I'm not going to add many more past that. Just I'm trying to keep your credibility up, right? Where you're just not where your homerism doesn't come through so much.
So you took that slide that I gave you with the 6-player trade for Chris Blewett. You took that out. Now I know why. Okay, that makes sense.
Gotcha. Moving on. There's a report this week from Jake Russell that Greg Williams might be a name to watch for Antonio Pierce's staff if he goes. Antonio Pierce is interviewing everywhere. I don't know if you've been following that. Vegas. He was the interim coach of Vegas. He's interned with Tennessee, and I think Atlanta is actually going to talk to him as well. Interviewing, and who knows, it could be the Commanders as well. What do you think about this? That in some capacity he's going to be on the staff, and that's coming from the Washington Post, so it's not some internet troll, Marcast, or anything like that reporting this. Mike Mitchell, right? This is the Washington Post. These guys are professional guys. What do you think about that? If that's true.
Number one, I appreciate you coming in hot, Webb. Way to go. Way to shout out there. Number one, I hope.
Wait, first of all, I want to be very clear with that. Mike Mitchell's fine. Mike Mitchell's reports, I trust a lot of them. Yeah. My problem is, man, when you're official, you don't need to be lying in the weeds. That's all I'm saying. If there's an internet troll attacking you, you don't need to respond to every single comment.
Yeah.
Like if you're working for SI, that's where Mike Mitchell's got to step up his game. And I hope he watches the show, and I hope he DMs me and all this kind of stuff. And I'm perfectly fine having that conversation. Is his content good? Some of his news is really good. He was right about all the leaks out of DC with the draft. He was right about a lot of things, but at the same time, stop being a crybaby. Like if you're the top dog, guess what? People are going to come after you and question you and doubt you and all that kind of stuff. Stop being a crybaby. That's it. Do you hear Zach Potter crying about my internet troll job? No, he doesn't. He's above that. Be above that. If you're going to be SI and you're going to be the voice, be above that. So that's just my take. Go ahead. Sorry.
No.
Go back to Greg.
That's good. I think that I want Greg Williams to come back because I think number one, the importance of having, an established philosophy and a system on defense, people that we're bringing back to fit that defense, people that we're drafting now and bringing to the team to fit that defense. So I think number one, if we end up losing him, 60 days before camp, 30 days before camp, that creates a big unknown in terms of defensively what we'll look like. So, obviously he's going to be a hot commodity. I mean, the guy's been around forever. His schemes and his system, he's aggressive, but by doing so many things like he does, he can plug guys in and use them appropriately. He's not a guy that comes in and says, I'm a 4-3, I'm an even front guy and everything I run's out of an even front. And he comes inherited, a team that, might not fit talent-wise his schemes. I hope it's not true. I do think, though, and I'll let you speak to that as well, but I do think that some of the, candidates that you put down there from a bullet standpoint would be good replacements if, in fact, he does move on and goes back to the NFL.
Definitely. So the DC Defender Show question of the week, we're going to try this. We did the fan of the month last month. And by the way, the support for that has been unbelievable. Anytime I've tagged any of them, they've tagged others. And all of a sudden, I know Ace's post on X Twitter. He said, which fan base is the loudest? And all of a sudden, I just tagged one DC guy at first, and he started tagging people, and all of a sudden now it's DC taking over. So respect to the DC fan base. This week, we're going to do question of the week. So if Greg Williams goes to the NFL, who should replace him? Antoine Sewell from Morgan State, assistant head coach, defense coordinator over there. Jamie Sharper, linebackers coach for the Defenders last year. Jaron Horton, the assistant head coach for the Maulers, or other. Leave a comment on the show. Let us know. I will put this on Twitter. Alex will put this on Twitter. We want to hear your feedback. We'll talk about it next week. Maybe we are looking for a defensive coordinator replacement by that time. You know how fast the NFL moves with coaching sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Sewell is a super successful. He's early 40s, Morgan State, HBCU. It just fits every local, like it just fits everything that the rest of the staff fits. Successful, young. I know there's a couple of older guys, but what I'm saying is he's given them. Barlow's given them their shots in the head coach or the coaching world and professional ranks. Antoine Sewell might be one of those guys. Yeah. Jamie Sharper, obviously, linebackers coach. Linebackers were pretty outstanding last year. He fits that mold. What?
No, I was going to say, yeah, they were. And I'm sorry, I cut just completely. We don't trip over each other, but it is.
No, go ahead. Yeah,
I was going to say Sharper's intriguing to me because not only his NFL playing experience with the Ravens, but he played under a great head coach in college. He was part of George Welch's team at UVA. I think his defensive coordinator might have been Al Golden, when he was at UVA, who's been head coach at Temple. He's now he's been I guess defense coordinator at Notre Dame. I mean, this guy head coach at Miami. So I mean, Sharper comes with a good football pedigree. He might be one that would be sort of ready for that next step from position coach to coordinator. So that was a good, when you put his name in there, I was like, that's a good one, Webb.
And then the final selection is Jaron Horton, assistant head coach, Pittsburgh Maulers, assistant coach of the year for the USFL. Really was the head coach for most of the part in the transition between the 1-9 and the team that ended up being in the championship. A lot of roster moves, a lot of experience there, even at a young age. Especially in the spring league. He was with the Atlanta Legends back in the AAF, the Maulers for 2 years. He's been at Vandy. He's all over the place. UConn. He was the defense coordinator at UConn at one point. So we've got a couple options. I think all three of them fit that mold that Reggie Barlow would bring in. It'd be interesting to see. Jamie Sharper gives you continuity at the very least. Sewell kind of brings you that fresh HBC look, and then Horton obviously is Horton, and he's my guy. So like, I'm not going to say anything bad about him, but he was the best defense coordinator in all of spring football, maybe history. So, and that includes Tim Lewis. So the fact that, do you bring someone in like that so late in the process? I don't know. And that's the only knock on Jaron, that he hasn't been around the team, but. Knowing Jaron a little bit, like I'm confident that he'd be able to transition right into that. But we got, first of all, Greg Williams first of all, I want to hear your comments. We haven't been controversial yet on the show outside of Zach Potter. Do you love the Greg Williams defense or do you not? Where they're super aggressive all the time. Yeah, I didn't prep you for this. Do you want to save this for episode 3?
No, this is good. This is good. I mean, I see advantages and disadvantages. So number one, it's very hard offensively when you have to prepare for so many different blitzes, so many different fronts. And in itself, that makes the defense unique and harder to prepare for. Typically on defense, I like more aggression. I love the way Williams disguises coverages. Like, there are ways around that, but obviously, he's going to give you one look pre-snap. And then, when that ball snapped, everybody's moving. It's going to be a totally different look. He usually doesn't give you a pre-snap look and then sit in that right when the ball is snapped. Now we can go quick count and do other things to kind of keep them, make the defense uncomfortable there, but long-winded way of saying, I like all the different looks and things that he brings. Now, here's the issue. You got to coach the hell out of guys, and you got to have smart guys to run all that different stuff, because quite frankly, a defense that's confused hesitates. Hesitation gets you beat. One of the things that I liked about Jaron, and one of the things that we heard from the Mauler players, is that we're going to try to keep it relatively simple, right? See ball, get to the ball, wrap up, right? I like that piece of it. So what was your original question? Do I like Greg? Would I take Greg Williams or not?
The style of defense that he coaches.
I like it, but you got to have the right guys to do it all. You're going to put your guys in situations where they may be less than comfortable with some of the things he's asking folks to do. But
I think a successful coach coaches too. It's players, not the players coaching to their system. If that makes sense, guess what? We're going to run the same thing over and over again because this is what I do, instead of finding the successes of the individual players and using your talent to the best of their abilities. So that's my only knock on Greg Williams. It's like you're going to be exactly what Greg Williams. Like you can look at his film from 2009, and it's a lot when he was with the Saints winning the Super Bowl. It's a lot. It's very similar to what it's going to look like in 2024. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of defense coordinators that Bill Belichick, a brilliant mind, right? Obviously, greatest of all time, in my opinion. But his defense can give a different look all the time. Yes, he was based out of 3-4, but like he didn't just do the same things over and over again. He had superior talent that he put in the right position. So that's my only knock on Greg. It just seems like he'll always be that zero blitz guy. He will just go out, see quarterback, get quarterback. So
but I think agreed. But I think to be fair, if you watch, they'll give you different looks, but they play a lot of. One thing I noticed at least this year with him is he seemed to be playing a lot of zone on first and second down. Even now he'll bring it. When he brings it, he brings everybody.
Yeah.
So in offense coordinators, we love a zero blitz. I mean, that's the opportunity for home run play. Bring it. You're probably going to watch your completion sitting on your ass if you're the quarterback, but zero blitz is a good thing for the offense, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. And conversely, I remember now this is college football, but if you go back and look at the Miami Hurricanes back in the early 2000s and Larry Coker and how good they were, I watched a couple of their games. They literally lined up in a 4-3 Tampa 2 for the entire game and would kick the ever-living crap out of people because they had the people to do it. They had 4 guys up front that could dominate the gaps, could get pass rush with 4. You don't have to do anything. If you're kicking their butt up front, you don't have to blitz and bring everybody. Yeah. So, I think reality is probably somewhere in the middle. And you have to trust. I mean, this guy's made a whole hell of a lot more money coaching football than me, so I'm not gonna, give it a hard time. But there were times last year that it would blow your mind. Like it just felt like risky, overly aggressive at times, that kind of thing. So we'll see.
Oh, wait, before we go, question of the week. So remember, leave a comment on YouTube, on one of our Twitters, UFM, Web UFM, and Alex UFM on Twitter. Instagram, it's UFM Web, because there's a Web there's a Web UFM. Someone's got that. It's crazy. I've never heard, whatever. I can't even get my own handle. But so leave a comment. We'll talk about it next week. Free agency from the NFL. Another big thing is after this dispersal draft, there'll still be room possibly on the roster to get up to 75. I picked 4 guys. I'm going to be honest with you. I picked all 4 of these guys based off of remembering them from college, or they're coming from successful programs.
Yeah.
Scotty Washington. I'll let you go first.
You can go with Scotty Washington. I was going to say he's at Wake Forest, and he really hadn't done much with the Patriots yet, but he sure is a big body and an interesting talent that could certainly translate into the spring football league.
110 catches at Wake Forest. Yes, he hasn't done anything with the Patriots or the Cincinnati and Baltimore. He was on all 3 of them at one point. But he's been on practice squad, so obviously he's there, and maybe he needs some tape. And he's been a couple years out. Now he's a free agent. He didn't get a futures contract as of yet, as of recording on the 14th of January. but he's a big play tight end. And we talked about offensive weapons. I know we have a couple. The defenders have a couple tight ends that catch the ball and do really well and have a lot of touchdowns and big play. But Scotty Washington's kind of like a big wide receiver. Mm-hmm. He's not necessarily the blocking tight end. He's more of a big wide receiver. So your thoughts, anything on Scotty other than that?
No, I remember him from college, and it'd be interesting. He'd be another one like some of these other picks here too. Like does it translate in the spring league, right? Yep. When given that opportunity. So nothing more to add on him.
Darian Kennard, 6'5". Offensive linemen don't get stats, right? 6'5", 322, Kentucky. A couple years with the Chiefs practice squad, got drafted. Your thoughts on Mr. Kennard?
NFL draft profile, they were very high on him. Like they actually, if you go and look at the ratings, I think he might have been a 6'5" overall rating, and with his draft profile, which is a potential starter in the NFL. So that tells you something right there. So I was intrigued. Big body, potentially someone that again, offensive linemen are a premium in the NFL, certainly in the UFL are at a premium too. So I thought that was a good pick that you put on the list. I can piggyback from there to go to Dantzler if you like.
Yeah, that's fine. Go for it.
This one is really intriguing because we know we have a need at cornerback, and here's a guy who for 3 years with the Vikings was he's an NFL starter, right? That's a talented football player, Mississippi State guy. This guy can play. So when I saw that name on there, I'm like, that's why they call him the GM. Because this would be a great addition to our defensive back room. So that's my take on Dantzler.
Well, he was a second team all rookie in 2020, which obviously in 2020 we all know it was kind of a crazy year. But he's an NFL talent, 3rd round draft pick, just like you said. A couple interceptions, just starting corner right out of college. It seems like some personal things went on with the old regime at the Vikings and kind of spiraled out of control a little bit. That's just looking at it. If he's sticking with the game and he's still willing to improve, why not come to the UFL and excel and be the top corner? Kind of like Mark Gilbert last year, right? Yeah. That you get another shot, you get brought back in instead of sitting on practice squads over and over and over again. That's right. Come and get film at the UFL, then you go right back in the summer. Yep. So you're really just playing games, and who doesn't want to play a game? Do you want to practice all the time? That's just my opinion. So I think he would be a tremendous add for the defenders. And like you said, we need help at corner. And if you bring an NFL starter from 2 years ago in, it's just unbelievable. And then Bryce Perkins, mobile quarterback.
Yep.
He's a UVA guy, which I know you can't stand.
Well, let's give Bryce credit. Okay. Let's give Bryce credit. So UVA set the standard for mediocre football since George Welch left. And
remember, this is a DC show. There's a DC show, so watch out. There's a lot of UVA guys.
But even Virginia fans are frustrated with it. I mean, they've just been terrible. I mean, if you go back and you look at what Welch was able to do, but they had that blip with Bryce Perkins at quarterback. Bronco Mendenhall was the coach, and Bryce Perkins did everything for that team. I mean, he absolutely was a one-man force. To your point, he'd be perfect in this offense. He was an accurate passer, very strong arm, ran the football well, great team leader. I think Bryce would be a great pickup. And again, if you go back and look at sort of, 6 wins, 4 wins, 2 wins, and then you see, the big jump, 9-win, 10-win season. It was when Bryce was calling the shots, and he is truly a difference maker. So, again, and I think even look, I'm not ditching on UVA. But I do think even UVA fans would tell you it's been a tough go since Welch left. He's their guy. He's a guy that, you want to bring DC fans into Audi or people into Audi Field and that UVA alum base up in Northern Virginia. Put Bryce Perkins behind center and watch him flock.
So his first year starting, he had nearly 1,000 yards rushing on the ground, right? Yep. And 2,600 yards passing. Like you said, he kind of did it all by himself, and he kind of fit that Kais offense, and that's the reason why I added him. And the fact that he doesn't have a job right now in the NFL was another reason why I added him. He'd be a perfect fit to replace Tiamo if Tiamo is not coming back. That's I don't know. Do you want? I don't know if he's going to want to sit on the bench for exactly. If Tiamo's coming back, Bryce Perkins is probably not coming back.
Wait a second. You want something controversial? He could beat Tiamo out. Okay. Bryce Perkins can beat
Virginia
Tiamo
Tech
out.
guy. Virginia Tech guy.
If they bring Perkins into camp, it will be a quarterback battle.
Oh, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But it's really, does he sign if the established Tiamu is back? I don't think he signs, honestly. I think Bryce says, you know, I can go find a practice squad, or, you know, I'll get another camp shop. Like, he's not obviously 30 years old. So he will get another camp shot. I can get a camp shop without going to the UFL and battling and being the backup to someone if someone's established. It depends what kind of attitude Bryce has, really. Does he want to go fight for a spot against an incumbent? I don't know if he does, but he did play in the NFL for 3 weeks last year for the Rams, while the Rams were 2 starts, right? I think 2 starts.
Okay, maybe 2 then,
yeah. But tremendous talent. I think he'd be perfect. I actually, to tell you the truth, if we sign these 4 guys, I'd be happy with all 4 of them. So
me too. If Bryce, and you heard it here first, if Bryce Perkins comes to DC and ends up being the starting quarterback, I will learn the words to the Cavalier song and sing it.
Thank you for watching. This has been another fun episode 2 Super Draft. You guys have been super supportive. This is a bonus episode. We're going to release this on Sunday afternoon because guess what? The draft kind of got thrown on us that there's actually going to be a real draft. Yeah. So we're kind of throwing out our opinion out there. This will be this week's episode, but next week we'll review the draft and the roster and see what's left. January 16th starts free agency, so we could be seeing some of those NFL guys. We might see Bryce Perkins by next week. Wouldn't that be crazy? That would be absolutely insane. Hopefully we got a couple guys on the slides that were like, see, we told you this is the guy to look at. So hopefully Von Hutchins and Reggie Barlow watches our show, even though we're only at episode 2, so we're not 100% established yet.
Your cell phone could be blowing up this afternoon, right? It could be Coach Barlow on the other line saying, hey, Webb, tell me more.
Hey, man, he followed me last week between episode 1 and episode 2. He followed me on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I put out that one graphic where he said, we're not done yet or whatever. We're not finished yet. And he followed me. And I was like, man, that's my guy. He just knows it. He just knows it. So Coach Barlow, I'm a big fan. This is the reason why we're doing the show, really, the 2 of us, because of Coach Barlow, because I was like, you know what? I really like rooting for that guy. So.
Well, he followed you, not me. So, Coach, if you're listening to all the way to the end of the show, man, I'm following you. I'd appreciate a follow back.
But that has been episode 2, the Super Draft preview. United Football Media, like, subscribe. Alex, it's your turn.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks for having me, Webb. And curious to see how this all works out. And until next time, so long, everybody.
the classic Alex exit. But this has been the DC Defender Show on the United Football Media. Webb, Alex, out, shields up.